You have to be cleverer than them. 90% of fighting, whether it's a boxing match, whether it's a UFC, whether it's judo, is about the mind game. Muay Thai is just so brutal and the most effective fighting style in my opinion.
I do have quite like a physical side. I've just never properly harnessed it.
It's two disciplines, self-defense and stage combat. I don't pretend to know about stage combat because I've done self-defense. I know about stage combat because I've trained in stage combat as well. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't gone to drama school. I just wouldn't have known where to start. They just teach you the tricks of the trade, and I loved it, and you couldn't pay me to go back there.
Just fact check. So you've just finished Titanic Musical.
I've just finished Titanic the Musical.
And have you been in Les Mis, or you watched Les Mis and that was your inspiration?
Yes, both.
Okay.
So I was a competitive kickboxer for the first sort of half of my life, and we were competing quite a lot. Me and my dad, we both did it. And I'd got my black belt, and I was sort of enjoying what that was giving me, and me and my dad were sort of debating what the next steps were in terms of where we were going to compete. And I don't know why, but Les Mis was coming out, and I'd sort of sung a little bit and danced a little bit, because I think when you're young and athletic and you can do flips from martial arts, naturally dancers want you to sort of hang out with them and want you to be in their stuff because you can do a bit of tricking. And so dance and singing was always there. And then I think it was when the film of Les Mis came out, which I want to say is 2012.
I think so, yeah.
And
That sounds about right.
we went to go and see the show, and we loved it so much that the next day we went to go see the film. And then the day after, I think I went to a party and I saw the 25th Phantom anniversary, and that the combination of those 3 days just sort of cleared me out. I then was like, this is what I want to do forever. I can't believe how much I've been moved by this art form in 3 days. So then I did my training, and Les Mis was my first job out of college in the original that I'd seen a few.
Damn. When you say you did your training, like you've made that sound like it was just like small. Was it big process, or was it just a small?
So the Christmas was when we got the tickets to see Les Mis. The Christmas of I want to say 2012. And in that time, 2013, I want to say, was when I left for London. So like I'd got into Brit school 3 months after having seen Les
So
Mis.
you went to Brit school?
Yes.
Nice.
That's so funny.
And so you were fifth. That was,
Really?
Yes. And we've got another
We're everywhere.
coming. Yeah. So you did Brit school 15 to 18.
Yes.
And is that your training?
That was sort of a leg up that gave me, I think, enough of a foundation that I then went to Arts Ed, which was
Oh, I see.
which is what sort of gave me the actual training to be able to do this as a career.
Cool. Yeah.
I love Brit School, but it's a step up.
Yeah, it's a
But,
step.
It knows what it is. It's a fantastic place for sort of sixth form to give people a leg up to either go to uni or to go to drama school, and it did exactly that for me.
Yeah. And then Arts Ed after that. What's Arts Ed like? If you kind of just summarize it, your 3 years, yeah.
I mean, everyone's got their own sort of
Experience,
experience and opinion, but Arts Ed was fantastic to me. I think it was very, very much you got out of it what you put into it. I was at a time when I was sort of discovering myself as a singer, as one of the people that was sort of going, okay, I can do all three, but I'm preferring the singing side of it. I could have gone somewhere that I think was a bit more singing oriented, but I wanted to also work on my dance, and I knew Arts Ed wasn't going to let me slack there, as opposed to just treating me like a singer. And they didn't. They put me through my paces. I think Arts Ed was one of the best things that... It's the hardest and best thing that I've done. Like, I loved it, and you couldn't pay me to go back there. It was
Okay.
absolutely necessary, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it taught me so many amazing lessons, which there's no doubt I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I hadn't gone there. It was great. It was great for me.
I feel like we've got a lot of similarities in the sense of, you came from martial arts and I came from a gymnastic background.
Oh, cool.
And so flips was always there, and
Yeah.
kind of how you got included. And then Les Mis was probably the thing that influenced me as well, because I hadn't been doing musical theatre. You know, I was this little dance kid with gymnastics. Actually, I started dancing year 7, so it was year 8, and our secondary school did Les Mis as a show. And so I was like, me and my mates, you know, we like the drama department, we were like, it's fun. And so then we just auditioned to be in it, and I'd got, you know, a couple of ensemble bits and a couple of like solo singing bits and whatever, and then the rest of it was ensemble. And then we went to watch it, and then watching it done professionally, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that was like my first big moment. I then just continued through just for local sixth form.
Do you remember what year you went to go see it? Did you see it in the West End?
Yes, 2018.
That would have been me. That was my cast.
We had
No, because that is so cool. That is so cool.
Amara as Cosette. Yeah, she was. So me and Amara.
We watched you in it.
Yeah.
No way.
There'll be if you have a program from it, you'll see the worst headshot of your life. Yeah.
That is awesome. Who would have thought? That is crazy. Okay, well, that's the show that I watched that I went like, well, I want to come back here in some shape or form. And then I did NYMT last year, and they did the Sondheim kind of first kind of concert for him.
Yeah.
And it was at the theatre, so I managed to sing on the stage, and it was like, yes. But one day, I'm hoping, you know, who knows?
Absolutely, man. And even that, what a bucket list to sing on the same.
Yeah.
You know, it was the same. You have a moment of being like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that path. I'm here. I was inspired by something, and now
Yeah.
I'm in that building, and I'm doing something there as well.
It was so cool. I was like, this is just such a nice kind of, and the fact that you're,
That's hilarious.
I can't get over that. That is really cool.
Yeah,
Damn.
November 2018 because we performed in December.
Wow. Yeah, you played Cosette.
I remember it being Mara.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
I was never much of a principal kind of like main, and I'm still not, but I'm going to work my way there. As an actor, and I hadn't had much experience in singing. So I remember when we were doing the show, you know, I think they gave me like the opening couple lines, which I think, and I was cut. Yes.
Oh, you were.
And so I had.
Forge Levant.
Yeah. Yes, and then my line was like, Monsieur le Maire, you come from God, you are a saint.
Yeah,
I didn't do it extremely well, but you know. But I think the very first line of the show, it's something like, is when all the sun is strong, it's hot as hell below.
That was your
right?
line?
That was my line.
Yeah.
My only singing line of a show.
That's high as well. That's a difficult.
As a little
line.
kid,
Yeah.
my voice has gone much lower then, and now I struggle with G's.
Sure.
But, you know, it's I'm working on kind of my
And
singing.
that's the top of the show as well. Like normally, if you're in a track, like I went on for Grand Terre a lot, and the show leads you like it. You know, it starts very like in your boots, and by the end, you know, you're up on top C's and stuff. But it warms you up quite nicely, unless you're on that part, because
Yeah.
the first thing you do is
I remember
gods.
finding it so difficult, and I was like, how am I finding just one line of song so challenging? And like, I don't know, all the singing since then, I was just like, I just can't. I've kind of starting to fix my mindset. I'm definitely a baritone though. Like, I don't sing high, very high anymore. What are you kind of vocal range wise as a singer?
Well, so I would say sort of, I'm always on tenor one lines just
Okay.
because of when I discovered Les Mis and Phantom and the things that initially inspired me, the two people that kept coming back and back were Ramin Karimloo and Hadley Fraser, as I'm sure most people my age were inspired by the whole way through college. And so I sort of learned to sing from copying them, which translates to just hours of trying to do the end of Till I Hear You Sing or Pirate Queen or whatever. So naturally, whilst my voice was developing, I was singing that kind of stuff. So, you know, we've just done Titanic, which was quite hard because Barrett is a part for a baritone, and the highest it goes is a G, which for me is right about where you have to start putting some power behind it in order to.
Yeah, I can do G's, but it's a real like effort.
Sure. I mean, you know, it's just where everybody's voice sits, isn't it? Marry that up with the tenor one line where you're on constant C's and A's.
I don't know how it's. I can't comprehend how people sing that high.
It's just how your voice is, isn't
I
it?
know,
It's just,
I know.
It's just how you...
Yeah, but
how
to
you're
be fair,
made.
2 years ago, because I've only been like doing singing lessons for like the last couple of years, kind of on and off, and now I'm here training. It's like every week. But 2 years ago, I was like struggling with like D's and E's. So the fact that now like I am able to do F's and G's in a these are, I know maybe some people don't understand. It's kind of just like different notes. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people watching this will probably understand. But like the fact in the last couple of years, I have managed to push it. We tried Santa Fe the other day. Kaitlin just likes to get me to try and sing high songs, and I was just there at the end, just trying my hardest to get like to sustain the very last kind of big kind of belt. And like I think I held on to it for a little, like a couple of seconds, which
That's
means
all you gotta do.
if I can do it for a couple of seconds, then I can build on it until I'm strong enough as a singer.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's it. And you know, our voices don't really settle until. I mean, fact check me on this, but I think between like 25 to 35.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, you know, we're always like, and it's just possible to learn new skills and learn different qualities and things that will help you get there in a certain way. Mix has always been something that has been a bit smoke and mirrors for me, because I was always very like chest led singing, and I didn't really understand what all these like mixed terms were, and it's a bit of head voice, it's a bit of that, and I'm like, for me, I feel like I have here, or I have like
That's where I'm
just
currently at.
the two,
Yeah, for sure.
But you just need the right teacher. That if you go with a want to learn something and an openness, for a while I was just like, I think mix is made up. I don't think it's a real thing. But
that's what I think with vibrato. Like I hear people doing it, but I'm just like, yeah, that's cheating. I don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, you know, you just need the right teacher to tell you in the right way, and then you stick with them. And yeah.
How much singing experience? Because it sounds like singing has been like a big thing for you in your career. Like you know, that's one of like the main.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know at one point what you're selling yourself, like what areas of you know. I can't tell you the last time I went to a dance school, which is ironic because that's how I got into musical theatre, was dancing. But it was dancing what I wanted to do, and then it was ballet and it was jazz and it was things that I all of a sudden wasn't very good at again. And
we're so like generally you don't realise how similar we are.
Oh, well, there we go.
Like I do gymnastics and I did contemporary dance and I came to drama school and there's all this ballet and jazz and tap and I'm like, I'm not a dancer. And I thought I was a dancer.
I mean, you're also at Bird.
Yes,
so
it is a dance course, you know.
Anyone that's in Bird is immediately a better dancer than I am, which isn't saying much. But you got to know what you're selling. You know, you got to know when you walk into a room, they go, right, they're looking for someone with like a big sort of, I don't know. You need to go. No, I'm not going to be seen for whatever, because I've also probably been to one dance class since I left Arts Ed, which is bad, and you should not do that. But you know, I also just prefer singing. I like the freedom that singing gives me. It allows me to be more inside the character, and it allows me to relax more. And I've always struggled telling a story through dance. I struggle selling something that I know is shit, because I'm like, why should I try and like gurn and try and mug you off? Like if I was watching this, I would know it was shit. So I would rather do the thing that I know I do well.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And keep working on that.
So how much singing did you do at Arts Ed then? What was the training like vocal wise? Because I've thought of Arts Ed as being quite like fairly dancey as
I think it is in terms of relation to the other. I mean, we're also going back like nearly 10 years now. And there was a sort of stigma that the three leading ones at the time, in terms of all-roundedness, were, I think, Mountview, GSA, and Arts Ed. Those were the three that I auditioned for. Those were the three that I got. And when I was debating which one to go to, it was sort of put out there that GSA was making incredible singers, primarily. Everyone that went to Mountview was an incredible actor. And Arts Ed, I think, by default, became the dance school. But I think the reality was it was just the most well-rounded. In my opinion, this is only obviously my opinion, but I think at the time it was just because it was the most well-rounded that it gave dance enough time that it then became the dance school that does all three. There was a lot of dance. It was a lot of dancing for me, but also in terms of singing, you don't realize until you leave college just how many reps that you got. And I think that's the same with anything, whether we're talking about musical theatre, we're talking about self-defense, we're talking about whatever. The more reps you get at something,
Reps,
reps in terms of just how much exposure you have to the thing. We were doing like at least 2 or 3 classes of ensemble singing or one-to-one singing a day.
Wow.
And you don't get that exposure anymore. You just don't spend that much time working that muscle anymore and constantly learning new things and spending time in a studio on your own just singing. Like, I'm lucky if I find time, and again, it's bad, but you're lucky if you find time in the week to just be like, I'm going to dedicate an hour to just singing and getting better without paying extortionate prices that there are now for a singing teacher. I'm very lucky with mine. Mine still charges me a very, very decent a decent price because I've been his student since the beginning of Arts Ed, and he knows me. And like I'm saying, you got to find the one that knows you and the one that just,
for sure.
I come back off this tour and I said to him, I've got a few hunches, but I just want an MOT check. Basically, I want to go in front of you and for you to tell me that I'm doing everything right or what. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't. He got there and he was sort of like, "Oi, we've got to go back to the basics a little bit and figure some stuff out." And you need someone that knows you and will just put you right back on the right course.
That's so interesting hearing, like, you as a professional in the industry being told, let's just go back to the basics and just like look at some, like, I mean, I guess it's just realistic, isn't it? Like, you just have those days where you just need to, but it's nice to hear. It is nice to hear, because I have days where I'm like, and I have days where I'm like,
oh yeah, and that will never go away.
Yeah,
like,
I know,
ever.
I'm realizing that now. Yeah, but the days where go really well. I mean, I only get one singing lesson a week, and it's a half-hour lesson, but I've always found them to be one of my favorite. And part of me is like, I really wish I had more singing lessons each week, because I know that it's probably quite an integral part of musical theatre. Like, being a good dancer is great, and it will help you get into the ensembles. But since I've come to Bird, I'm quite interested now in some of the acting. And I never was. I was scared away by kind of like acting on stage on your own or singing on stage on your own. I was terrified. My legs go to jelly. I tense up. Like, my body just reacts really badly to it. But I'm starting to enjoy it more than some of my dance lessons.
Great.
And I enjoy the dance lessons, but I'm finding my acting the most rewarding, the most fun, the most I get like kind of out of. And the singing is just every week I just look forward to it, even though it's just one lesson a week, not like daily.
That's great though, and if it inspires you to take the time into your own hands and do it, I don't know what it's like in terms of finding free studios and stuff. We used to do that all the time at Arts Ed. You'd just be walking through on your lunch break, and someone will have nabbed a studio because they just got a new song that they were just like they wanted to go and try. And you lose that, and you don't realize that you have that whilst you're at drama school. And when you're then in your apartment in London, and you go, there are consequences for singing. You have to now take time out of your like money making day if you want to just put in a solid hour where you get some reps in and you just expose yourself to singing again, and you work that part of the song that didn't quite go right the last time you did it, as opposed to just waiting until the next night. Like I said, Barrett, the part that I've just done on Titanic was quite a hard sing for me in terms of where it sat, and the only way that got any easier was just going over that bit again and again and again and ironing out those creases, until it felt smooth, until my body recognizes that it's a part of the voice that we can sing in, and there is warmth there, and you find space, and all these things that are just the fundamentals. Because I think 90% of singing is just getting out your own way and just doing what what a baby does. And like, this isn't news to anybody, but I've just been with my little niece now, and the voice that she's got on her, and it can just ping through the space, and she never loses her voice, because babies just don't, because the babies have perfect technique, and then everything else that just gets in the way is the stuff that we feel like we should be doing this when we're singing, or like society tells us to be a certain way, or you get insecurities about singing, and babies don't care about any of that. That's why they're the best singers. they just have the technique that we should be after.
Yeah, that's a very interesting kind of way of thinking about it.
I'm definitely not the first person to say that. That's quite
well, you're the first person who said it to me,
There we go.
You
I'll
know,
take that.
And it's something that I think maybe I might repeat, because it is interesting. Like, babies start with perfect technique, and then just life and whatever gets in the way, and it starts to
And it tells you
take away
that
from
there's
that.
something wrong with like shouting or hitting a bum note or being too loud or being whatever. Babies have perfect posture as well. They're always perfectly aligned whenever they're walking anywhere, and all that just disappears as you get older. I'm a firm believer that just singing well is just kind of getting out your own way at one point. And obviously there's technique, obviously there's, think about this, make sure you're tilting here, and you add quality, and you make, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you about my singing lessons, but yeah, that's my belief.
Yeah. Wow. After hearing you say all that, like, you wouldn't think that you were a martial art kind of self-defense instructor. Like, you sound like you're, this big kind of musical theatre singer. Like, it's crazy to me that you'd seen Les Mis, gone, oh, okay, this is cool. Was just casually kind of went to Brit, and I was like, nice, all right, I'm just gonna go to Arts Ed now. Like, it sounds like so perfect, but I imagine there was a lot of kind of hard work and grind and ups and downs throughout that process.
Of course, especially coming to it so late. Coming
Yeah.
to the world of musical theatre 3 months before I went off to study musical theatre.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been that sort of, I'm so far behind.
Yeah, because I generally, I feel the same. I completely do. I joined the local company a couple years ago, but it wasn't in my intentions to actually study it. I was like, dance, contemporary dance college. I'm going to go to Rambert or London Contemporary
Sure.
or Northern or somewhere. And then I'm doing my applications, and I'm like, do I want to do contemporary dance all day, every day? I quite enjoy singing. I quite enjoy acting. I was like, oh. And then I hadn't heard of where I'm at currently, whilst we were doing the process of finding where I'm going to apply for. And then
That was
Kaitlin
you that
went, oh, you should have a look at Bird. I was like, sure. And it coming from not having done anything really, it was the one offer I got, and I was like, snatch, I'm going to take
Right.
that, because I applied for
good
a
offer to
range.
have, mate.
Yeah, I applied for a range, and it was just some are pure acting, some are actor singer, some are this and that, and I hadn't had much experience in them apart from the one audition that was more contemporary dance. Makes
Right.
sense. It was the one that I got. It was Bird, because we had contemporary dance in the audition, which I think was in my favour.
Yeah, absolutely.
They kept asking me we hear a different song from you, and I went in with my one song prepared, and I ended up doing 3, because I was we'll just hear another, let's just hear something else, until they heard something that they thought, yeah, we can work with that.
That's the thing, and I think a lot of people auditioning for schools sort of don't hear this, or they're not taught it prior to auditioning for drama schools, is that they want something malleable. They want to see something they want to see someone that's willing to learn. A lot of the time they don't want to see this finished product. I think a lot of people, not that I think many people are a finished product by the time they're auditioning at drama schools. I think that's pretty much impossible, but most drama schools want someone that looks like they're going to have fun there every day, and someone that looks like they're going to take on every shred of information or guidance or whatever that they can be given. Whereas people go and they're so serious and they're so I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this perfectly. It's they're not looking for that. They're looking for a bit of heart. They're looking for a bit of character. My next project that I've got coming up, the auditions were only a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't the most technical dancer in there at all. But I was having more fun than anybody else in there, and lo and behold, I got the job. So it's...
Are you able to reveal what that is, or is it
not
all hush
yet.
hush?
I'm not. It'll be out soon, though,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's pretty cool. So before Titanic,
Close to my roots.
Close to your roots.
I'll give that.
Ooh, yeah, and your
I'll
roots
give
are
that.
in martial arts.
Oh, I mean,
Kickboxing? Okay.
Empty roots.
No, languagey roots.
Okay.
But
Oh,
that's all
okay.
I'll say on that. So I'm quite excited because
Yeah.
I don't get to flex that muscle very often. So
Yeah, so. Is that also you'll be speaking in? Nice, cool.
hope so. I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be happening soon.
So in terms of actually getting work, how consistent has the workflow been? And then what do you do in the time between jobs?
So I've been very fortunate. Coming out of college, but I then. So So luck is a funny thing, right? Luck, and I was a bit resentful for some period of time about the word luck, because it felt like everything I did, no matter how much work I put in, everyone always said, "Oh, you're so lucky." And that starts to grate on you when you're a teenager and you are working your ass off, and everyone's like, "Oh God, you're so lucky." You're like, it's not luck. Like I'm working my ass off for this. But I've sort of decided that luck is, what is it they say? It's preparation meets opportunity. So it's like the opportunity could come, and if you're not prepared enough, then you've missed it, and you have no luck, right? You could be preparing and preparing and preparing, and the opportunity doesn't come, and you have no luck. And it's that little collision of the two that you've got to be ready for the thing that's coming at you, and that is staying close to show condition the whole year round, so that when whatever this opportunity might be that comes, you are ready for it. And that's sort of the combination of what I've decided luck is. It's my sort of working relationship with the term luck. And I have been, in that respect, very lucky to have got Les Mis straight out of college, and that served me well. It's a good thing to have on the CV. And but then I was preparing for, it was 2018 that I booked Les Mis, and I'd been preparing for that since 2012. And he said Chris Hocking, the who was in charge of art, said when I was there, I remember him saying to me, he was like, "Of course you were going to get Les Mis, because people have been preparing for this audition for 3 months. You've been preparing for this for 6 years. Like, this is, you've been singing like Ramin for 6 years and learning how he sounds, and he's obviously the hot ticket at the moment. He's who everybody wants to cast, and you've done the right thing in growing your hair out really long, and that makes you more castable." So that was sort of, at the time, the only thing I was right for. So it made sense that was the thing I got. That the long hair also sorted me out for Prince of Egypt, because I look more like my Mediterranean, like Iberian Peninsula roots when I have my long hair. And I went from from Les Mis into Prince of Egypt. Did some little projects after that, but I was very lucky in the sense that I sort of did one audition 2 years ago that served me up until now, to the end of Titanic. I had a wonderful lady called Danielle Taranto who auditioned me for West Side Story, and that was maybe one of my favorite jobs that I've done. And she's just been very, very kind to me and very good at making sure my name is in the room for whatever she thinks I'm applicable for. And I owe her a lot.
Is she an agent?
She is a casting director and producer, and she's just done Titanic. She does the Ljubljana Festival in Slovenia every year, which is an amazing gig. That's where we did West Side Story. It was brilliant. She did Ragtime. It was at the Charing Cross not that long ago. The Lion is something else that she's doing at the moment.
I haven't heard of that one.
It was at Southwark not that long ago, and I think it's still sort of...
The Lion. Have you heard of The Lion?
Just a one-man show, but it's beautiful. She's really just keen to tell these great stories in whatever venue she can. Titanic has had this 10-year journey where it started... I'm going to get this wrong, but I feel like it either started at Southwark or Charing Cross. I think it started at Southwark. And it's done tours, and then it's gone to Charing Cross or the other one, whichever, vice versa. This is, I think, the biggest scale tour that they've done. And then we went to China. We've just got back from there, and we did Taiwan. So she's really built this up from the ground. And I know I'm just talking about Danielle now. This is
but it links into like the whole conversation of like who you know, because that it sounds like you've met someone and they've managed. They know a lot of people. You've kind of befriended them. Yeah,
you just need someone to have a bit of faith in you and to just go and present your best self, and someone will, someone will like you, and your name will be in the room. But I feel like we're in an age where we've got a sort of broken reward system, especially in musical theatre, where you can be really talented and not necessarily a nice person, and you still get treated well because you're talented. And it's moments like that I feel, I try and be a nice person. I try and give out to the world what I would expect in return.
Yeah. Well, I think you have, coming to like just some random kids podcast, like that's, you've done exactly what you've said.
But it's that, I think it's just trying. I think that is how people, it's about who you know. It's about how I think it's a testament to your character. I think it is about who you know, but if who you know doesn't like you, then the phrase is redundant. It's about trying to be the most friendliest and professional and want to hire them again person. And
Yeah.
then it's who you know, because then those people will want to put you in their rooms if you make a good impression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, that's pretty pretty kind of sound advice. Or like, yeah,
Be a nice person. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty, you know, self-explanatory. Be a nice person. People will like you, and will put you in rooms with people. I guess if you know you're easy to work with, you know, all of that. But we hear that all the time. But I just think people forget it. And lots of people are always saying like, well, how do you network, or how do you kind of get those first things? What would you say kind of about like, how do you network?
It comes up to that preparation thing again, because I've never been one to sort of go to parties and go to all these sort of these events for networking, these parties for networking. I've never, because someone knows what you're doing the second you start it. The second you go, oh hi, it's this person that's worth knowing. Have you met XYZ? They go, I know exactly what's happening. This is sort of forced and unnatural, but still, you've got to do it sometimes. The way that I met Danielle and I got on Danielle's radar was just I showed up to an audition more prepared than everybody else for a part I was completely wrong for. But
Yeah.
it didn't matter, because by that point I think I'd sort of won her over, and she then put me up for the character that I was right for, and then 6 months later I'm doing another job for her, and that's been my experience of networking so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just remembering who's been nice to you on the way up. If musical theatre is, which it isn't, but if it's this ladder that you start down here and you work your way to the top, just remember the people that were kind to you here, because they didn't have to be. They weren't, you know, smoozing up to you and being like, oh wow, you're so good and talented and famous and useful is the long and the short of it. If someone has already this big career, a lot of the people that are going to be being nice to you are also trying to get up the ladder themselves. So the people that believed in you when you had nothing to offer them, just remember those people. I think that's how good networking is done.
Yeah, I like that, actually. Just remembering those who are nice to you when you didn't have. You know, I think it's, I like that a lot. So you are a kind of a self-defense instructor on the side? Is that a right way of saying it?
Yeah, I think on the side is the best.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's weird. I feel like my teenage years were spent doing self-defense and kickboxing and training musical theatre.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like what I do is musical theatre, and I put all my training time back into self-defense.
Yeah.
It's we're talking about self-defense, and there are some really suspect screams coming from outside.
Yeah, it's just the area we live in. Students just love to scream.
Great.
I can't wait just to move to my place. But anyway, yes, back to the to the point.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's my two passions, and I think there's this big stigma about being an out of work actor and being miserable. And sometimes, like, I don't know when my next big job is coming up. Like, I've got the one that I sort of half told you about, but me sat here now, I don't know how I'm making the bulk of my money for next year, which can be scary. But I know.
Is it scary?
Kinda.
Mm-hmm.
You have waves. You have waves where you go, I'm sure something will come up, and then you go, I'm sure something will come up, right? You know, your confidence comes and goes, but I think that's natural, and it's just making sure you have enough things in place that you're still entertained when you're not working. Because if you dedicate your entire happiness on having a job, some of my dream jobs have been some of the worst times of my life. And typically a lot of the problems that you have when you're out of work, you still have them when you have a job. So it doesn't tend to go away just because you've booked this big West End job or whatever.
Yeah.
Being happy when you're out of a job is so important. And I think you have to plant enough seeds to go back to and make sure that that is the case. A lot of people say that that's the same as, oh, don't put all your eggs in one basket, which I also disagree with, because I think you should. I think in musical theatre you need to. I think if you're going through college and not putting all your eggs in that one basket, you're not going to care about that basket enough, because there are so many easier options to do, and you'll find it. Like you'll give up. I think this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're out and musical theatre starts working for you, you have to find other stuff to make you happy, because musical theatre will not just make you happy. Everyone thinks it will during college. Everything will be fine when I get that job in Les Mis. You'll get that job in Les Mis and everything won't be fine. You'll have all the same problems, except now you'll be in Les Mis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swings and roundabouts, but you know what I mean. When I'm working in musical theatre, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm also missing self-defense, because I've set up another one of my passions that makes me money. And then when I end the job, I'm not miserable because I know I've got self-defense to go back to. And then I'll be doing self-defense and loving it and sort of missing theatre a little bit. Another job will come along.
Mm.
And the jobs will come and go when they do. I have very little agency over that. And a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
And they create their own work. They write. They do projects with their friends. You have no real agency on when the next performing job is going to come. So have agency on what happens in between, whether you're happy in between or not. And it's in place for me, sort of, with the self-defense. There's way more potential to be explored with that. And that's what my 2024 is going to be about.
Yeah. Nice. You said that kind of before the episode that you've done a lot of fight captaining.
Yes.
Fight captaining, or just you've been a fight captain
Mm-hmm.
on quite a few of the shows that you've been on. Were you on Les Mis? I mean,
I wasn't
I
on Les
don't know.
Mis because I had enough to do on that job.
Yeah.
I was a swing on Les Mis, and
yeah, I've recently discovered. Well, not discovered, but I've recently discovered how much respect I have for swings. I kind of I wasn't really aware of it before. I was like, oh, that's cool, but now I'm like, that's crazy.
it's no joke. It's really swings and dance captains, like, you have to call them out when yeah, like, you have to praise them. You have to give them the spotlight, because they never get it, because everything they do happens behind the scenes. But yeah, I had 13 tracks to cover on Les Mis, and it was
13.
all the ensemble boys, plus Grantaire and Bamata Bois, the one that attacks Fontaine, the one with the stick, him.
Damn.
So that was wild. I would have loved to have fight captained it, because there was quite a fair bit of physical combat in Les Mis. I just didn't have time.
Yeah, that makes sense. How long did it take to learn 13 tracks?
I mean, it depends who you ask. Arguably, I felt like I was a good swing, because I got that. I feel like my brain just, like, I loved it. And 6 months in, when everyone was bored with their single tracks, and I was running around on a cut show doing, you guys know what cut show is?
Oh, I think I do.
So it's all right. It's not a test. Cut show is when essentially say you have three swings, but 5 people off. So it's like,
Yes,
well,
I do.
what happens now? We just have to, we have to figure it out, and we have to share up. We have to divvy up all the responsibilities and stuff like that. Just, I used to live for that, and I loved it. So, but I definitely couldn't have taken on fight captaining on top of that. As well. But Prince of Egypt, I fight captained on.
Nice.
I had that written into my contract at the beginning, because apparently I heard there was going to be a lot of fighting in it.
Mm-hmm.
That was an experience.
How do you go around like becoming the fight captain for it?
You just sort of, I think you have to be brave with this kind of thing. You have to just be savvy to the room, especially if it's a creative room. With something like Les Mis, I knew that I think there is a fight captain now. There wasn't at the time. They just left it up to the dance captain, which is a completely different discipline.
Yes.
If it's an established production, you ask in advance. You say, "Is there a fight captain position?" They'll say yes or no, but there should be, and you have that conversation. If you're in a creative process, like it was with Prince of Egypt, West Side Story, you just have to kind of keep your ear to the ground and go, do they need a fight captain? If so, do they have one? And on Prince of Egypt, that was the case, and they didn't. So I sort of just slid that card, and I went, look, I have this whole history with martial arts, but also stage combat, because they're not the same thing. They say the 2 hardest people to teach stage combat to are dancers and martial artists, because dancers often don't understand violence. They understand their bodies better than most, but they don't understand violence. And so it's hard to make fighting look natural because dancing in itself tends to not look that naturalistic. And martial artists, because obviously you're saying, okay, you're not supposed to hit people now. You're meant to miss, and that's quite a hard habit to unpick. But Prince of Egypt was me just noticing that they probably needed one. They didn't have one, and so I just slipped the idea, and they went, actually, yeah, that's great.
Cool.
West Side Story was similar. So a question I get quite a lot is, what's the best martial art for self-defense? What should I do if I want to do self-defense? And the annoying answer is the best martial art for self-defense is the one that you do, right? The one that you're going to go to, the one that you're going to be the most enthused by.
Okay.
I was a striker growing up. I did kickboxing mainly in the form of savate, which is a French kickboxing style.
Cool.
More like Taekwondo. I moved to Muay Thai, which is what I love now. I Muay Thai is just so brutal and the most effective striking fighting style in my opinion. I went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu about 2 years ago just because I was hearing so much about it. And some of the things that I was teaching in my self-defense classes that were very striking based, but already Muay Thai blurs the line between striking and grappling, because it's very kind of about clinch work and getting in close. And it's all about short range, which obviously you then end up grappling and wrestling a little bit. So I was already sort of grappling from a young age, but then I started moving into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and people were saying, oh, that technique that you just taught is actually from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was going, I just know that it works. Because the other thing that people don't say is no matter what martial art you do, it's basically all the same shit. It's just this comes from here, this is different, this works better on the ground, this works, whatever. Yeah. I went to Jiu-Jitsu about 2 years ago for the first time, and as a striker that had fought and trained for years, and I got my ass handed to me. Like, I got so humbled on my first class that sort of kick-started this fixation with jiu-jitsu. And there's really, really nothing like it. Whether you're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whether you're doing more of a Gracie jiu-jitsu, which is more oriented towards self-defense, which can include some striking or whatever, or you're doing more sport Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all of it is just amazing. And I think at this point in my life, if anyone said to me, what should I get as a newcomer who wants to learn how to defend themselves, what should you do? I would say Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so that's the right one to go for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've been looking at it.
It's so complex, and I've really, really fallen in love with it in the last 2 years.
I never managed to get into martial arts as a kid, because what my older brother does is karate, and I just got really bored of all the position.
Katas.
Yeah, the katas. And I didn't enjoy it. And since then, I'd kind of I'd stopped. And I mean, I didn't really spend much time on it anyway. But I was like, I'm just going to do dance and gymnastics instead.
I think that was a better investment in your time.
Yeah.
Karate is a funny one. It's like, if some people call it the gentrification of martial arts, right? Something happens in a small corner and people go, what are they doing? That seems really effective and really good. And so it starts to spread and people start to teach it, and then the validity of the quality that's being taught starts to get diluted, and suddenly every mum is doing Krav Maga, and it's not Krav Maga anymore. It's not the same standard that was happening over in this little corner, right? That's just sort of the lifespan of a martial art, right? At one point, Krav Maga was this brutal thing that the Israeli military were doing, and now like every other mum knows it, and it's sort of. Now, if someone says to me, I'm a black belt in karate, I go, okay, but I don't know what that means. Like, I need more information. I need to know the credentials of the club. I need to know how long you've been doing it. I need to know, do you compete? If someone says I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I go, yeah, you don't fuck with you. Like, you know, it's just the real deal. Like, the lineage is still quite pure. And also, it's based in proof. Like, if someone's a black belt and then you roll with someone, and that's sparring. They call it. You're rolling together. And you get tapped out in like 4 seconds. You go, well, you're clearly not a black belt. With Krav Maga and things where they're less, I couldn't do this technique because it would kill you. You go, okay, well, I'll have to take your word on that. I can't test your ability in all these martial arts that are too deadly to use in the streets. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it can be a game, or it can be. There's plenty of footage of people saving their own lives and disarming people and choking people that are harassing women in the streets. And there's plenty of proof that Jiu-Jitsu works.
Yeah. I think it's going to be hard for me to find the time, but when I can and when I've got the funds, it is something that I think. I mean, what do you think about this? Which was a plan that I had. It was to save up, find the right place, and I found somewhere fairly nearby, and to just like go like ham for like a month. You know, like spend a lot of my evenings and just kind of like just for 1 month, like go like 3-4 times a week, like really invest in it and see like how much I can get out of it. Because then I'm going to need to spend my time doing other things as well.
Of course. Look, the reality is the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. And I think in Jiu-Jitsu's case, I think an intensive is better than sporadically.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I think then you get the bug for it. Then you get a little bit like, oh, God. As soon as you learn just enough, you go, I want to go back on it again. And then you'll find more sustainable ways to do it. But I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the way to go. And I would definitely do that. Because it's also not cheap. Like, it's really not cheap. If you spend a month's membership and just go absolutely full throttle on it, you're gonna learn so much.
Yeah, that's my plan. So I just need to find the right time to do that. But I do have quite like a physical side. I've just never properly harnessed it. And I think just as a guy who did like dance as a teenager and stuff, it was quite weird. I was in this like phase of like feeling quite like physical, but also not at all at the same time. So that
Jiu-Jitsu will do that
strange.
to you. Like, a word of warning, Jiu-Jitsu feels shit for the first however long. Like it's especially if you're like a little bit littler like us, you know. I don't know what you weigh. I'm only like 75, and
I think I'm 65.
Yeah, and you get people that are just naturally big, that they just, everything comes so much more natural to them. But you've got to, the whole like size doesn't matter thing in relation to martial arts is sort of BS. It really does. Like if me and someone who is the same skill set as me had a fight, but he's stronger and bigger than I am, there's not no chance for me, but it makes my life so much harder. My skill has to be so much better than his in order for his size to then not equalize.
Yeah.
That's sort of jiu-jitsu's whole thing. And it comes and goes, and there are times when I get frustrated with the fact that it preaches this, that you don't need to be strong, but being strong at everything helps. If you have skill and then you have strength behind that skill, that's the perfect combination. But if nothing else, the skill will get you there against someone who is bigger but unskilled.
What are your thoughts on going to the gym? Because I've had teachers who say, you know, it's kind of lifting weights and stuff is good. You're going to get strong and it's kind of safe. But I've got other teachers who are like, just do it at home. Just get some resistant bands or body weight stuff. And I'm trying to work out, because I know I need to make a decision. Do I continue, because I do a lot of like body weight kind of exercises like that, or do I maybe potentially start lifting weights? Because with some of the partner work that we're going to have to do, being stronger is going to be quite helpful.
Yeah. Partner work is about being strong, but it's also about being technical.
Yeah, I've got a lot of technique already.
And you'll know this. You're a better dancer than I am. But I like partner work because I think I have that strength, but it's that debate between. It's a common theme here. You can be strong, but if you're not doing it technically correct, it's going to feel 100 times harder than it needs to. Mm-hmm. So,
and that's on both ends as well.
Yeah,
like
I think going to the gym
I
think going to the gym is for me, it's become a part of my life that I've just done. It's routine now, and I do enjoy it. I also have things. I know jiu-jitsu is the only cardio that I do because I enjoy it, or I'll spend half an hour on the punch bag, and I've found a relationship with the gym that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, the motivation comes and goes, but that's the point. Yeah. When you get the motivation, put the time in, because hopefully by the time the motivation is lacking, you've established a routine and you get by on discipline. Because motivation comes and goes. You're not going to have that forever. People that staying 100% motivated every day to go to the gym, it's like your teeth. Like no one's motivated to brush their teeth. It's just something that you do every day, and so you like
Yeah.
it's part of your routine, and it feels weird when you don't do it. So that's my relationship with the gym. I mean, I'm at a place in my life where I feel like I get more success when I do go to the gym more. I think it makes you feel better about the way you look. It gives you more confidence. And I think the
agree with
amount of time I probably spend doom scrolling, and I definitely spend a collective hour on my phone a day, like without a doubt. I think we all do.
I think I might spend more, which is terrible.
Right. Well, we all do.
is
We all
terrible.
do. But instead of that going, well, if I take that collective hour and I just go, right, well, I'll spend an hour at the gym, you like, it's so much more beneficial for you.
Yeah,
You feel
I
so much
agree.
better about yourself. And
Totally.
I sort of grew up with people saying that there are certain things in life that don't really matter that much as long as you're a good person, as long as you're a nice person. I think, unfortunately, going to the gym is one of those that isn't. Like people say, it doesn't matter what you're like. If, people genuinely find you more attractive if you're stronger and look after your body more. And this is in my experience, and it's a very fickle line of work that we work in. It's musical theatre. And don't get me wrong, we had a guy come in who was in art ed who was absolutely jacked, and he was preaching about going to the gym, and he said, 80% of the rooms I'm in, I have to take my top off. And I go, well, that's because you look like you. That's because you're jacked. It was a really dumb thing to say of him, but it's true. If you're fitter and healthier and you feel better about the way you look, you're going to go into the room with the confidence that is required to do your job and get out your own head. And I feel better about myself when I go to the gym.
I think that's fair. It's endorphins, isn't it? And everything that gets released, the feel good hormones.
They can do, and a lot of people will say, the gym gives you endorphins, and the gym, when you do XYZ, when you do dumbbell curls, you get endorphins from that. And it's true with some people, and then some people are waiting for the endorphins. They're going, well, I'm doing all this work and I'm not feeling good about myself. I'm not feeling the endorphins. I'm not feeling the rush. And I'm one of those people. Like, it comes and goes. I don't always feel good when I'm at the gym. I had a gym session with my housemate today. We both left being like, we were so unmotivated for that. But we were still there. I know I'll feel the ache tomorrow, and I know that the day after I'll feel a bit stronger, and that will give me the drive to go back and do it again.
Have you found doing it with someone has helped?
Definitely. Our housemate moved in a couple months ago, and we just keep each other accountable. If one of us isn't feeling it, the other's like, nope, come on, we're doing this, and vice versa. There's the occasional day where we both aren't feeling it, and we go, nah, let's sack this one off, but we'll get back at it tomorrow. Because you still got to listen to your body. So, yeah, I think so. I think I prefer personally training with someone else. My partner, Julia, is completely different. She likes training on her own, but she's also got a specific injury that she's in rehab for. So you just got to find the thing that works for you and just keep doing it. That's the same with everything.
Back to the martial arts. This is now on like the grappling side. You might have heard of this, but I want to tell you about this game that I generally think I found so useful. Firstly, it's really fun, and there's like a reward system to it. But also, it's just like I don't know. I'll explain it. So basically, you and your partner, like, you're facing each other, and you each have one sock on. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh,
and the
I
aim
thought
is,
you meant like a game.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So this is a grappling game that I just found on the internet, and so we've tried it, and I've got these mats at home.
Who won?
Our ratio. What would you say the ratio is?
I've won 3 times, and I think Josh has won about 13 times.
But
It's a great game, isn't it? We're trying to take the sock off.
Weirdly, the times that you've won, like, I've actually, like, I don't know, I prefer, like, I find that I get more out of it when I lose, because part of me is just like, well, how did I, like, what could I, done differently? And there probably it is a bit of an unfair, like, kind of, we both have a lack of technique, but there is like a strength differentiation, whatever the word is. Strength different. Like, there's a difference in strength, definitely. But like, I don't know, I just doing it is just really, like, it's some of the most fun that I've had. And
there's another one that you two should try, and it's how I sort of gateway people into boxing. Okay. And you've just got to try and touch the other person's shoulder.
Okay.
And and that's it. It teaches about, you might remember from the workshop that we were doing, it teaches about distance management, because if you're far enough away, he just can't reach you. If you're too close, you need to be aware of the fact that you're both in each other's range and you can both touch each other's shoulder. So then it becomes more about movement. It becomes about baiting him into touching your shoulder, moving it at the last minute, and when his shoulder comes at you, you touch his shoulder with the other hand or whatever. It's just...
we can't play it in here.
No.
No,
Well, we'll
things
go
that
to
get
like
broken.
there's loads of parks around, and like I am like so interested in like doing like the sort game, or maybe now adding kind of into this one, just because like firstly it's free, because it could just be you and a mate can just kind of go and do it. But I don't know, it's just some of the most like adrenaline kind of rushed, like just rolling. It's called rolling, isn't it?
It is called rolling.
Rolling.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I love it.
I have a story. Can I tell you?
You can. Do you want to come sit down? Have a seat.
I'm gonna tell you a story. It's just about an experience. I was telling you earlier that I was in Bugsy Malone.
Yes.
If any of my friends are watching this, they'll find that very funny that this is the experience that I've brought up. But when we did Bugsy Malone, they have the song, "Do you want to say you want to be a boxer?"
There you go.
And we had it's actually a friend of mine who was in the company. It was her mum came in, and she does boxing, like she was, and came in and like did a boxing training session with us,
Right.
like to learn how to
But I think that's
properly
so
box.
good. I think that's so good, because otherwise if you're doing any sort of specialist skill in a show, no matter what like degree or quality or level or whatever, like there's so many
was really
stage
cool.
fighting sequences that I see in the West End that I just go, no, like you've not picked people that know what they're doing here. Like it is a skill. It is a trainable skill that people have expertise in. And for me, it's the same as getting someone to sing in Spanish and having never taught them any Spanish and having them just try and figure it out because someone in the class took Spanish at GCSE. Like, if you're doing something that means a lot to other people, you need to do your research on it, and you've got to have
I've had a
people
few
in the
times
box.
where they've just gone like, okay, we're gonna sing like Latin now or Italian, and everyone looks at each other like, okay. And I had back at home, we had a musical director, and they were saying it, and I studied Latin for 3 years, and so I did understand how to pronounce Latin word. Like, we were, old school Latin, and then I did her a couple of times be like, actually, I think it's pronounced like this.
I think you have to.
But yeah, growing up getting to do that, I got a lot of really incredible experiences because my first show was Bugsy, we did boxing. The next show I did was Barnum, which
Circus work.
Yeah, we had a guy come in, teach us how to do circus work. You would have loved it. We did we got taught how to do these cool lifts. They had a human pyramid, which they collapsed, which was really cool. Bit scary to watch at first. And they had like everyone up, and then all of a sudden you just have to shoot your limbs out and they all go flying. Edie was on the top. And then Annie was on the top, sorry. But Edie and Annie were, and then they went and like collapsed. And I thought it was terrifying, but it looked very cool. I also learned to juggle.
I'm so jealous. I really want to learn how to juggle.
I'm not saying I was very good. I have to disclaim that because, again, my friends will laugh at me. But I can still juggle. But it was a really cool thing that I got to learn. But when we did West Side Story, we had a guy come in and teach us stage combat, which was really cool. I think I still follow him on Instagram, but he did some of the X-Men films.
Wow.
Which was cool.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I think it was those ones. But he'd done some kind of Marvel. They're Marvel films. They are good. God, I don't want to get that wrong. But yeah, it was really cool. We did a couple of weeks with him. And that was where, like, when I came to the self-defense class, I was like, okay, I've done a bit of stage combat, which I know
With
is...
your claws out.
I was
ready
like,
to,
I know how to, like, fake fight people.
I've seen X-Men. I'll be fine.
Yeah. We did a couple of weeks, which was really interesting. And again, in Bugsy, we didn't actually do that much, or me personally didn't do that much actual boxing. And then again, in Barnum, we did a lot of circus skills. But then in West Side Story, I was Rosalia, so I didn't grapple anyone or fight anyone really, but they let all of us do all the training. Obviously, the Tony and the brain blank, but
Bernardo or Riff.
it was Bernardo. I thought I got that wrong. Yeah, they all like obviously did a lot more
Of course.
and did a lot more practice than us,
Still,
and they did the
it's great.
specific bits. But it was amazing that like our company of like 40 odd people, of all different ages, sizes, everything, got to learn to fight. But I found it was interesting because at the time I would have been 14, I think. And I was well up for it. I love like to get stuck in and get involved. And so we were all in a big circle, and he was getting us to come in to like help be examples for things. And so I stuck my hand up and went in. And he was showing us like how to shove without actually shoving someone. So you kind of like push off their shoulders. And one of the slightly older guys in the company was like, "Oh, you can't do that to her." I was like, "Why not?" I'm like, he's not actually pushing me, and he's not going to hurt me. Like we're putting on a performance. I'm also shoving him back. Like it was, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting that like
it's just a dance, isn't it? It's a real
Exactly.
relationship that you have to figure out. It's all about eye contact. It's all about constantly being like, okay, so how much force on a scale of 1 to 10 is this in your books? Because it's fine me going like, I didn't hit you that hard. What's your definition of hard?
Well,
Like,
exactly.
And you get some people whose egos just sort of get in the way, and they go like, oh no, I'm going to give you this. It's enough to make it look realistic. You go, no, like be kind, be nice to the person that you're in this dance with, the same way that you would if you were doing a pas de deux and someone goes, oh, you're like grabbing me a bit too hard in that moment. You gotta, if you're going for like a body punch, which I think there's no excuse for doing a body punch, not with contact. I think it looks better. You can sell it. You've got abs there that are used for bracing, and there's a, you know, because I merged the gap. It's two disciplines, self-defense and stage combat, and I don't pretend to know about stage combat because I've done self-defense. I know about stage combat because I've trained in stage combat as well. And there is a world in which you can be full contact with people, with a caveat. You need to be respectful, and you need to be all on the same page about what contact looks like for you, and you can absolutely get away with it. But yeah, it's a relationship.
Yeah. Well, I trusted this man because we'd done a couple of sessions, and also I knew that like he was used to teaching these stage combat classes, so obviously was not going to shove a 14-year-old girl so she like hit the floor. Like he was like, I was like, we were doing it together, and I didn't need anyone to step in, because I was like, if I was upset, if I was uncomfortable, if I was getting hurt, I would say something if there was a problem. But it was so interesting, and we obviously like matched up with, we practiced with people of our around same sizes, because it, you know, it makes more sense. But it was really interesting, and like getting to do the kind of different, and then it was very different what we did.
I wanted to ask this: how does going to a stage combat workshop compare to the workshop that I gave you, which is how we know each other? I gave a class at Central on how to actually beat people up.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting because it was just part of our freshers week. Like it was on the freshers timetable. It was really cool.
Well,
go on.
My freshers week was 2 weeks of just full day lessons, and the very last Friday was a barbecue at lunchtime, and that was my fresh.
How much longer are you at Bird for?
2 weeks.
As in
2 years.
2 years.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So it's
I
the
do
first year.
freshers every year, mate. You know, just have a word with your SU, and get an SU.
Get an
have
SU.
a word with them, and then there's
Start an
a
SU.
process.
Yeah, it was amazing because it was funny because at the same time there was a football match going on outside, and so people were like, oh, I don't know which one I'm going to go to. I was like, I'm going to go to self-defense. And so
I didn't know that. There was a great turnout actually at the workshop.
it was
all
lovely.
things considered.
And so they were outside. I went and watched the first bit. We had a picnic, and then I went inside, and me and my friend were like, yeah, let's go. So we went in, and it was I really enjoyed it. And I came out and sent Josh a very long voice note being like, this was so cool, and we need to get Adam on the podcast. But here we are.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting experience, and not something I think I came out feeling a lot like I am a young woman living in London. Like that's I moved into my accommodation, and the first night or second night I was there, someone got like stabbed down the road. Like
Jesus.
it was. And we came from a tiny little town in the south of England, like where nothing happened. And so that like is a huge shift. And so then being like, oh my gosh, I'm in a place that is like my safety levels have definitely changed. And then coming out of that workshop, I was like, okay, I feel so much just more prepared in the sense of like, I kind of now have almost an idea of if something happened where my brain would go first.
Of course, and look, you're still going to be terrified, and
Yeah.
you're still going to like panic and probably not do anything right. But at least you've had one more lesson than everyone else.
Yeah.
It's something that it's a monologue now that you think about. Should that ever happen?
Okay, let me just
Go on,
let me
scooch
put.
up.
The only thing that I was going to say was that kind of. Oh, here we go. That kind of. This is so professional. That kind of sounds a lot like, you know, like in auditions, you kind of go back a little bit to your. They call it like a tractor state. It's basically your default, where
Yeah, your factory
reset
setting,
slightly. But I guess what helps is that once you've like done something on repeat, that kind of starts to feed into what your default is.
That was what I was saying about the reps earlier. It's just about how many reps you get in, and the whole thing with fight or flight, right? Which is the most common. It's like the next thing that people say after you say self-defense. They go, "Oh, fight or flight," right? Which I probably rambled on about it in the class, but it's such a misinterpreted thing, and people say, "Well, it's in my body, right? It's adrenaline. My body will know what to do." And it's like, no, it's a trainable skill. It's something you have to learn. It's you know, if I had to prepare a meal for really important people, I would be shitting myself. I would have adrenaline. It's not going to make me a better cook because that's still not a skill that I've put the time and effort into training to know how to do. And the reality is, people, when they go in these bad situations, they freeze because they've not been exposed to those bad situations. It's like we did, I think we did it at the end of the class. We took a moment where we were looking at being mounted, about someone being sat on your torso.
That was really interesting. And I was working with a girl of obviously a similar size to me. And we found it really interesting. I had never done anything like that. So it wasn't when I realized I didn't answer your question, but when we did stage combat, it was a lot more about striking rather than we didn't do any kind of grappling really.
Sure.
It was a lot of like punch, like learning how to fake punch each other or kicking or shoving. I think maybe like the people who were playing the lead parts did a bit more grappling because they needed to, but we didn't really. But then getting to do that in your workshop was really interesting, like being on the ground and like working that out. And I don't know, like the person I was working with, I didn't really know. And so automatically like being on top of someone was already like a very strange experience. But it's good because it means that you have to adapt and you have to like learn. And it was nice trying to figure that out. But also it was interesting doing it with someone of the same kind of strength as me. We were also very scared to hurt each other, so we kept being like, I'm really sorry.
Well, that's the thing, and I love that. And people get laughing, and there's the nervous energy, and that disappears. It's the common theme with the workshops is everyone, no matter how nervous they start off, we end up laughing, we end up having a good time. And considering it can be quite a dark subject matter, it's so important to make it a game and to make it something that people want to come back to.
We really enjoyed it. Like it was fun. We giggled. We like had a really fun time.
Good.
But it definitely makes you think, because there are a couple of like of guys in the class, and I was thinking, I wonder if I was fighting them, how different my experience would be, or whether like you know, you have to think if it was someone that was a lot bigger than me, what out of this can I take from it? Because there are moments that I was like, well, I can do this like with my partner because she's like the same as me. Like it's easier.
And that's why in like the UFC and in MMA matches you have weight classes because it's really important. It matters way more than your average self-defense instructor would make you believe. Oh, size doesn't matter. You can beat people that are twice the size. It's like you can, but it's hard. Like there's a reason weight classes exist is because it makes it more fair. It's not fair out there. Like people that
it was
are
nice
bigger
because
than
you were very realistic about that.
You have to be, because otherwise you sell people snake oil and then you teach them a technique and you say this works every single time, and then they go and they try it on their boyfriend and then it doesn't work, and then they have no faith in anything that I've said for the last hour and a half. You have to be like, just know that this is a good technique. But if they know you're going to do it, they'll probably counter it. So you need to make them think that you're doing this technique and do that technique. And it's all about just being more clever than them. If you stand opposite someone who's bigger and stronger than you and just go at it, they're going to win. You have to be cleverer than them. 90% of fighting, whether it's a boxing match, whether it's a UFC, whether it's judo, is about the mind game. It's about making them think something and doing something else.
The thing I found really interesting, and I remember talking to you about, was finding the weak points, because I feel like when you're in that situation or when you think of self-defense, you just think of like attack and like don't try not to get hurt. Whereas like finding, like being a bit more intellectual about it and thinking, okay, where actually is weak? And we tried like sweeping people's arms or like hooking their legs and moving them. I was not something that I'd considered before, but as someone that maybe would be a bit smaller than whoever was attacking me, it would be something that I could still do no matter how strong you are. If you find that arm's like in the wrong place and you just go like and knock it,
of course,
it can completely change the game.
It's just to do with being effective, being the most efficient that you can.
My question was, how much is it to do with weight placement and balance? Because I would have thought that there's an element.
So much to do with, but weight
their weight placement as well.
Balance, timing, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
If I go for a sweep and someone's got their full weight on that, I'm talking Muay Thai for a second. If I go for like a typical Muay Thai sweep, if I try and pick their leg up whilst they've got their full weight on it, it's not going to happen. You need to push them onto their back leg and then you can take their... But similarly, then it's different, because then if they transfer all their weight onto the one leg, picking it up isn't an option, but making them trip over it is. There's just so many, like I wouldn't be able to do any of it justice on here. But it's all about the moment. Like it's about having 5 techniques and playing around and being able to maybe do any of them, and then that's the one that makes itself available to you, and you just capitalize on it and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then it might not work. They might know the answer. They might know the counter to that. So then you go, right, well, what are my other options? And then you play over here again, and then they've forgotten about that one, so you go back to that one. It's all the mental side of it. That's why they say jiu-jitsu is like a chess game.
I love chess. I can't lie. This has been a great episode because you just keep saying things that just make me go,
Good.
Like,
good.
Chess and like the mind game of chess. Since coming to Bird, unfortunately, I haven't had the time to spend on it like I used to, but I was obsessed. I found myself like reading about it and like learning and like researching more than I was doing for my A-levels, because with some of the A-levels I took, I didn't see the use. I didn't see necessarily the point. I didn't see the benefit. Apart from like, it's going to get me like this number, which then won't do much else, and the knowledge itself doesn't carry on.
Especially in this industry. In this industry, it's really, really about just going in the room and doing something that people like. Like I couldn't tell you guys the last time I told anyone what my grade was on my diploma. That I don't even know how to say it properly. Like I don't even know what the thing was. Yeah. But they gave me a diploma and it had something at the bottom of it that tells me how well I did.
But you got the diploma and that's what...
Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many GCSEs or A-levels I got anymore, because it's just, in our line of work, it's just not. It's not useful. What's useful is how much you're at the school and how smart you're working whilst you're there. And then if you get a first at the end of it, fantastic. That will hopefully be a reflection of the time that you've put into it.
Mm-hmm.
But if if you're not there putting in the reps and just singing every day and dancing every day and acting every day, that's how you hone your craft enough that you can walk into a room and you speak for yourself. You don't need a diploma to see, look, I am good. You do what you're trained to do and they decide if you're good or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a thought. A lot of people, that if you see like content on the internet or people speaking or whatever about success, a lot of people will talk about the things like not mattering, being like, you can still be super successful with kind of low grades or with whatever. And I do think that is true, but in a way, I think it's kind of misleading, because then it might make you think that you don't have to put the work in, which you've just made very clear. Like, you still have to put loads of work in, like, and you've got to think about it for yourself, though, not for like the end result. Like, you could put loads of work in and, like, the number that you get or the letter that you get isn't the same as somebody else's, but you actually, as a performer, are miles ahead.
Yeah, you've grown. Like, you've put in and I mean, it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about drama school or whether we're talking about school, like, I have always been bad at maths. And I put so much work in so that I passed my maths GCSE, so that I didn't have to retake it at Brit School.
Mm-hmm.
That was my only motivation for doing it, because I didn't want to. You can tell I just got back from Spain. All my V's are turning into B's. I was like, motivational. But I think it's that. I mean, look, if a grade is the thing that stops you getting expelled, then at one point you've got to do what's on the criteria. You've got to know the right answers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a game with that as well. If the teachers have to see you putting the work in, be a bit more demonstrative in class. Be a bit more like, rent out the studio opposite the teacher that is giving you the bad grades. Make them see you working.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what it is. If we're talking about grades not being reflective of the work you're putting in, because at one point grades are what they are, and me getting a bad grade in maths when I was 16 has not got in the way of me having a career that I'm quite proud of.
Mm-hmm.
So you also just need to know what you're trying to achieve. I think at GCSE you need your English, you need your maths, you need your science, just to help you navigate the world
Mm-hmm.
to a degree. I've only ever really invested in the things that I knew I was going to need later on in life.
Yeah.
And because I was passionate and because that sort of hunger drove me I always had a vision in sight. That vision was always Les Mis. It was always, I'm going to do this and this is going to be the be all and end all, which isn't obviously great, but it did the job for me. I was in there, I was in the studios rehearsing all the time, and that made my grades go up for singing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, like, if I'm reflecting on my A-levels, I think I've started to realise that there's not that much I can do anymore, like, theory-wise or whatever, that will make much of a difference, which is why I spent so much time doing, like, chess and, like, doing something that I thought, like, I'm going to benefit from this, just in terms of, like, the way, like, your mind develops. And I'd been dancing since year 7. You'd started at the very beginning of year 12 and came out with a higher dance grade than me. Yet I am a dancer. Like, I know I'm a dancer, and it's not that my practical grade was bad. It's just I wasn't great at writing about it. I think I got like 45% in my writing or something. And if I'm talking about my grades, it's like, oh, you got a B in dance, but I know that my dancing standard is actually really good, and the grade doesn't necessarily reflect me as a dancer, because I know that I put in a lot of work to develop myself as a dancer. Just the grade didn't necessarily reflect that. I have a lot of issues with the education system, but that's kind of separate to what we're talking about today.
Everyone's good at what they're good at the end of the day. I love the quote, I think it's Einstein, that says, if you judge a elephant by its ability to climb a tree, or whatever it is, if you judge a goldfish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll think its whole life that it's an idiot. If if you're not fantastic at writing, or that's something that you struggle with, that doesn't mean you're not, and at one point grades have to do a thing at the end. Oh, I hate when people say do a thing. They have to do something at the end of the day. They have to go, quickly, how's this person doing? And yeah, it's a shame if your grade, you feel like it doesn't reflect the work you've been putting in, but then I'm sure your practical dance grade made up the difference. And when you leave Bird, no one's going to give a shit.
It's very
You're
true.
going to go into a room,
Yeah.
and no one's going to ask you, did you get over 45% on your written? They're going to see you do like however many pirouettes or a tour or whatever, or what's your chemistry like with this person that you're doing a pas de deux with? And they'll be like, yes, that's why I want to hire him, not because he got a second on his diploma.
I think that's what I'd started to realize by the end of it. Like, I still I don't want to say like I stopped working.
No, you got to play the game. Like, you got to, if they're going to kick you out because you've not got above a certain thing, you've got to play the game, and you've got to put the work in the way that they want. But yeah, if you're, if you know your ability as a dancer, you wait to get out of Bird. No one's going to give a shit about the theory.
And I started to realize that, and I think it's why it influenced my mindset shift kind of throughout year 13. The thing that was really frustrating, I mean, this is so like just had nothing to do with this podcast, but like I'd got 45% in my mock, and in the time between my mock and my actual exam, I did so many practice papers. I did a lot. I was like, no, I want to try and like improve on this. Comes to the actual exam, got the exact same mark. I was like, this makes no sense.
The government screwed us over.
Yeah, that also
yes,
was...
that was a COVID thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also that in there. But my mind was just like, I've put in like a fair amount of work because I wanted to make it better. And it was just like made no difference. And afterwards I was just like, well, that's frustrating. But I was happy with my practical, and I was happy with how I developed as a dancer. Like, my flexibility had improved, my strength had improved. We do a solo, and it'd always been a little bit meh. And there's this one day in one of our mocks for the solo, and I'd been getting, like the whole class had been getting a lot of feedback, like this is how it improves. And I just attacked it. I had a lot of pent up anger built inside of me, which probably contributed. I did the solo, and Miss went, great, got nothing to say. And I was like, I have that inside of me. Like, it was like the first taste of like, this is what I've been developing and working on, and now it's finally being like seen. Anyway, let's kind of circle round back. I've got a few more questions probably to kind of wrap up with kind of where we're at. What does being a fight captain, because this is kind of what we have been talking about, it's a lot of what the episode is around, what does it like actually entail? And do you have any like kind of memories, like favorite moments, or on the flip side, things that have been like really like challenging, or just like, why is this not working? Because I'm sure you've probably got some of them.
Yeah. Being a fight captain is essentially what being a dance captain is for dance captaining. For dance, it's maintaining the level of choreography in the show that is set by the fight coordinator, by whatever. The same way that a dance captain has to maintain the dance choreography set by the choreographer, that's what the fight captain does. There are sequences, you run them typically before every show. The ones that I've done, you have a fight call, the same way that if there's anything really strenuous and maybe you've got a swing on, you want to run dance lifts and stuff. God knows Prince of Egypt was famous for that, for just having a ridiculous amount of choreography. So you sort of help, and you give your 5 pence whenever the coordinator needs something. On West Side, I was very lucky to be sort of bumped up to fight coordinator, because I think a sign of a good leader who delegates when he realizes he's with someone whose expertise exceeds his own. When it comes to fighting, I was definitely the most knowledgeable person in that room. I think having an experience because I get people that message me all the time about what it takes to be a fight captain. You need to train in stage combat, but B, I think you need to train in a combat sport. You need to feel like, before you sell a fake punch, you need to feel what a real one feels like. So those are my two things. It's a trainable qualification. If you're in a fight captain position, you ought to be doing something with Take 3. You ought to be doing something with ID Fight, who are all people that, do a course at the BADC. The same way that I wouldn't sign up to being a dance captain without going to a dance class. Like, it's just you've got to keep that skill aboard. But yeah, you have to maintain the choreography, the fight choreography that's been put into the show. You have to run fight call most days before the show. You sort of, by definition, become a swing, because if suddenly you're on a cut show and there's not many people, you are like the last person that knows the choreography. So sometimes you have to jump in as and when, and you have to fix little bits. Fight coordinating is a sort of newer position and a newer craft in the industry. The quality of fight coordination can be a bit touch and go, and I've done jobs before where I've been looking at the fight choreography being created and just being like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to look good. And all my impulses were correct, because then we got like 2 months into the run and people are complaining that, their family came to see the show and they said that the hit didn't work. It didn't look right from where they were sat. And I'm going, I know, but as the fight captain, I can't change it. This is what they set. You can do, and you can, if you're brave enough, you can voice your concerns. And there were moments that I would say to them, hey, maybe can we look at the slap, because I don't think the slap is working for a decent part of the audience. Maybe something's gone wrong. But that's the biggest challenge for me, is you have to maintain whatever is set. So if whatever is set isn't fantastic, it's a hard position to be in for a fight captain. There's really no way out of it, apart from maybe treading on some toes and being like, hey, look, this really isn't working, and we're getting, maybe take it higher up, talk to the director and say, look, this isn't, I'm above my pay grade here, but it's not working. I think you need to talk to the fight coordinators.
Would you ever consider being a coordinator for shows?
I'd love to. I mean, I was for West Side Story. We sort of got there, and the director said, okay, I need some help with this. I need someone that knows. I need someone that I know what I want, but I don't know how to make that happen. And the role that I ended up taking on was more of a fight coordinator, which was great. I loved it. It's to do with, because West Side Story, there's a knife fight in there. A lot of it's grapply. I teach knife defense, so a lot of like real life knife defense. So a lot of what I was doing came from my background in real hand-to-hand combat, and it looked great. Yeah. No matter where I sat in the auditorium, it looked fantastic. It looked real because it kind of was. And yeah, it was great.
Nice. So something that I'm really interested in is the statistic that I saw years ago. And I wasn't so sure how true it was, but it was about how many people kind of are in the industry from drama school training and how many people have gone into it without any. From the work that you've done and the people that you've met and worked with and performed with, how many have come through from not having drama school training?
I would say 98% of the people that I've worked with have been from drama schools.
Oh, okay.
I've been from some kind of establishment, be that Arts Ed, Mount View, Lane, Bird, or be that from places that are a bit more regional that I've not really heard of, or international places that are the equivalent of Mount View in Australia or whatever. I would say it's really high. I think it's so much harder now than it is. I might be speaking out my arse. This might not be true. It might have been easier back then. It might be easier now. But I think the traditional route, that's not to say that it's the be all and end all, but I think once something's been going for a while, it becomes established, and it's sort of established that agents know where to find people, and that tends to be drama school shows or showcases, because they know that once you've passed through a certain drama school establishment, you are then armed with the tools that help you navigate the well-established world that is now UK touring or West End or regional productions or whatever. I think because agents know, and agents are essentially, agents are how you get that's how I get the bulk of my work. And you need an agent. The agents know to go to drama schools because that's where they're finding people that are now ready for the industry. That's been my experience.
Yeah. It's just this statistic made me think that there was quite a high chance of doing it without any training. And it meant that coming to drama school, I was is there any point being here? Like, if the statistic is saying that, like, and it was just one that I read online, and it really just messed my head up until I just decided, like, me personally will get so much more out of coming to drama school than not.
I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't gone to drama school. I just wouldn't have known where to start. They just teach you the tricks of the trade, and this is the norm. This is how you do it. Like, I remember thinking when I left Brit School, or like around maybe the end of first year at Brit School, that I might not need to go to drama school. And I didn't know a thing back then. And it depends what drama school you're in. Like Bird is a fantastic place to be, and I'm sure you get industry people in all the time, and that is your taste. They drip feed you into the industry until you're there, until you're ready to go, and you don't get that if you're just so chucked into the deep end, I would imagine. And I think now, truly, I think the easiest way to skip drama school and skip the traditional route, which is a tried and tested way of getting people into the industry for the long run, is being someone like an influencer, or being someone that you have enough followers that unfortunately casting directors go, he's got a tick, he'll put bums on seats.
Yeah.
But then I'm not going to say about the quality that I think that tends to produce. So,
but it makes sense though, if you've had 3 years of training, you've had 3 years of kind of grueling, kind of intense, whatever, you are going to be very disciplined, you are going to be refined. And I guess kind of without that, it would be quite difficult to have the same kind of level. At the same time, there's a weird kind of dynamic where there's a crossover of people who have the training and then also have the tick and bums and seats, and that just leads to.
And don't get me wrong, like you get people like a friend of mine, Danny Mack, who people go, oh, he's just from Hollyoaks. Sorry, Danny, if that, I think it's Hollyoaks, or like Carly Stenson, who I worked with on Les Mis, and you go, oh, she's just from Hollyoaks, and you go, but look at where she trained. Yes, she's done the clever thing of working in musical theatre for a little bit, or training in musical theatre, getting a job that puts you on the map, and then you get to come back and you get your pick of roles, because now people know who you are. People like Darren Criss, people like Neil Patrick Harris, people like Hugh Jackman, for God's sake. Like, Hugh Jackman could come back to the West End and just get whatever role he wanted, or he's done The Music Man on Broadway. That was possible because he did Wolverine, and people go, oh, he's cast him in that because he was Wolverine. It's go, no, look at the 1990 something national production of Oklahoma. Look at him as Gaston in Australia before that. So there's a time and a place for stunt casting, but I think that's the best version of. I think get someone who's trained to do, the long and short of it, get someone that's capable, get someone that's trained to do the job that you're paying them to do, not just because they've been on a reality TV show. They've been on a reality TV show, and like my friend Toby, who's just won the Mamma Mia thing. Toby has amazing training behind him. He's so talented. Yes. We did West Side Story together, and he was incredible on that job. And so now if people go, oh, well, I can imagine in 5 years' time, people going, Toby getting cast in something, and them saying, oh, well, they only cast him because he won that show. And you go, no, he won that show because he went to GSA, and he did West Side Story, which is one of the hardest dance musical theatre pieces that you can do. And, I think it's just about being clever. It's about having a nuanced conversation. And, I hope that's how people cast things going forward.
So how do you feel then about social media? Because you see so many people at drama school trying this whole TikTok influencer trend. And it's like, oh, I've got 10K or I've got 30K or whatever on TikTok. And some people do really well. And again, it's in the hundreds. Do you think that is going to have an impact on their career at all? And how do you approach social media?
Sadly, I think it will. Sadly, I think when I was training, I never wanted to be like, I don't want to be famous. Like, I've got no interest in that. I don't really care how many followers you have. I know that there are people that do nothing other than just talk to the camera about their day that have thousands of followers. And for instance, one of, I think, the most talented people in the industry, Ricardo Alfonso, has maybe only 10,000 followers, or if that, I think, maybe even less. And I go, it just really doesn't matter. I know that like Hadley Fraser didn't get a tick on his Twitter until like a few years ago. It doesn't matter. It does matter, unfortunately, in this world, and I see why people are playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
myself included. You know, I mean, I have no followers in comparison to some people out there. The reality is, it does help, and I hate that it's a game that you have to play.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to be like, oh, I hope I get this many followers. But the reality is, if I have more followers, it will probably help me get this job.
But no,
Yes, that's how I feel about it.
But I think that's very true, and reflective of kind of where we are at the moment, because you just see all sorts of people, and the type of TikToks that they put out is them doing a trend or reacting to something or talking to the camera, and it's just like quick, like it takes 2 minutes out of their day.
The reactions I don't get. I don't pretend to know anything about TikTok, but I'm like, if there's a funny video, let me watch it. I don't want to watch you watching the.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sound
No.
old and boring on your podcast about
No, it's
TikTok,
cool.
but it's
That's cool.
that's how I feel about
Yeah.
that. I think it's a game worth playing, unfortunately, because it's the way that the industry seems to be moving. I just wish it didn't.
I never got into TikTok. I deleted it off my phone years ago, and we post clips of this on there, but you manage all of that, and it's only because it helps. Like it works better than.
Of course, look,
other
I have
apps.
TikTok. Like I enjoy it. I think I've got an algorithm that just knows what to send me if I'm having a bit of a down day, and I think there's upsides to social media as well. Like I don't think social media is just a bad thing. But
Yeah, I don't know. My personal opinion is so many people are trying this kind of quick success kind of route of like just hoping that a TikTok will go viral, because lots of people, it does, and that does happen. But I feel like building an actual audience is so much harder than just having a couple videos go viral. Like that doesn't necessarily.
yeah, of course,
because
because you have to be good at something to
Yeah.
build an audience,
Yeah.
to build like a genuine fan base of people that are interested in what you're doing and like captivated to see what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
It takes hard work and it takes talent and it takes things that are hard to come by, and that's obviously why people want the shortcut. But
Yeah.
same as anything, same with self-defense, same with musical theatre, same with whatever. You just got to put the work in and it will be reflective, I think.
Mm-hmm. The elephant in the room is that like we are doing a podcast right now, but the difference is like this is such a small thing, and the struggle that we are finding is building that audience. But we're getting there. It's
But
and we don't do it for
focused on
stories and
the right
people. Yeah.
We don't want people who are just like.
Yeah, as a conversation I've had is I don't necessarily want things to go viral, because if something goes viral, you'll have loads of people who are just interested in that one particular thing that did well, and actually doesn't necessarily equate the rest of the things you're putting out. And what I gain from doing this is conversations, meeting people, and networking. Like this was my idea of, I'm going to drama school, I need to talk to people, I don't know anyone, and I'm a little bit socially awkward. What could I do? And here we are. It's kind of like a slow process, but I really enjoy it, and I think that's also the thing.
You're very good at
doing
it, mate.
things. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I do, because there's a lot of self-doubt involved, and with like the input, the effort compared to the output.
Oh, and
isn't
it's never
necessarily
gonna be the
even.
same, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even me with my like social medias for AF self-defense and West End self-defense, the amount of work compared to the amount of response that you get. I don't know anybody that. I think you have to be really famous before that starts tipping the other way. God knows that I'm not there yet. It's what you spend ages putting something out for a post, and then like only a couple of people like it, and you go, oh, for God's sake, I spent so much time making that poster.
Yeah.
But it's all little seeds that we're planting, mate.
Yeah, I think a good way of kind of trying to kind of bring this to a close is as a professional, which is what you are.
Sure.
Definitely. Talking to me, who is just an amateur, who's got a lot of interest, and this would link into the audience as well. What kind of advice, or what would if you had to say anything for me to try or to do, or a way of thinking, what piece of knowledge would you give to me, kind of as a closing thing?
Sure.
And you can take a moment to kind of think about that. Most people who are at this stage watching probably don't mind if there's bits of pauses or whatnot.
Without the risk of trying to sound really profound and deep, I want to try and keep this really simple.
Yeah.
Find your happiness in things that are like attainable, that you have agency over. Just find your happiness in sort of the everyday. And it's a struggle that all of us have, and you know, myself included. This is advice that I try and hold myself accountable all the time. Your problems, I think there's a tendency, we've already spoken about this, but to double back on it, there's a tendency to think all your problems will go away when you land that big West End job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not the case. Life's about so much more than getting a job straight out the gates of university or of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a marathon. It's about longevity. It's about having a career and not these quick little bursts of success. And yeah, that's genuinely, I think, the most useful thing based off of the, yeah, I've been out of drama school 8-9 years now, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But I think that's what I have learned, is you've got to find happiness in things that are just happening every day. You've got to find it in your relationships with the people around you, with the hobbies that you enjoy doing. Because as one of my very good friends said recently, if you just rely on your happiness with the industry, a lot of the time it feels like an abusive relationship, and you have to have that love and that passion for it. But it is an industry that just takes and takes and takes, and it feels like sometimes you don't get as much back as you give it. A lot of the time, I know most people will resonate with that rather than not. Just fill your life with things that aren't musical theatre, and it will keep that hunger for it ticking over, I think.
Yeah, I think that's. I no, you were saying about it being like too profound or deep, but it is. I think I was at a good level, and I think being at drama school, it is a challenge to try and find your things around it. I think this podcast is one of those things, but our conversation about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu earlier, I think, might be another.
And look, man, you're at drama school. Your world is about being at drama school, and I'm not going to pretend for a second that it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Mine was. ArtSed was the only thing I did whilst I was at ArtSed. And you know, in between term times but you're there for 3 years. Like, you can push yourself and be hard on yourself for 3 years. But I would have also maybe gone out and had more fun and taken myself less seriously whilst I was at ArtSed.
Do you think that would have made much of an impact or a difference?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I think maybe it would have shaped the rest of my life experience. I don't know that it would have put me with any more or fewer jobs than I have now. But in terms of just the richness of the rest of your life and experiencing things, sure.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
this is more for when you leave.
Yeah. That's fair. I am starting to kind of find things, and I think as soon as I have left, I will be able to put my efforts back into my passions, which I know that I have. I do find it quite difficult at the moment with the busy timetables and schedules to try and fit in some of the things I like the gymnastics and chess, like we'd mentioned earlier. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of grind for the next 3 years, see how I develop as a singer, especially because that's the one that I've come from having the least exposure to. But it seems like it's one of the ones that is the most important. I think even my ballet teacher said it was one of the most important.
Yeah, I mean, that depends. Depends who you ask, and it depends what specifically they're talking about.
Or like what you
However,
want as well.
Sure.
Like as a, yeah, I guess if you're happy being in an ensemble, doesn't like you just need to. Although I know that this was like us wrapping up, but I heard that there was a thing that some like directors do, or that that if you like hand over to someone who's like once the director's gone and they're helping like run the show, is that they plug themselves into each of the ensemble mics and then just listen for a portion of a show to how each individual person sounds, instead of it just as a whole, to make sure that they're all actually singing it correctly.
Yeah,
And that
RMD
was
did
suddenly
that on
was
Titanic.
like, oof. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, my
Until
RMD
earlier today.
came up to me at one point and just gives you notes the same way that they do. And if you're doing a show where the MD is in the pit, like conducting and doing, which is most of them, most MDs are on keys in traditional musical theatre. You get them every now and again in actor muso shows where they're all bouncing around and doing stuff. And in massive ensemble numbers, you have no idea who's doing and often what they'll do is they'll record the show and they'll keep it for 24 hours or whatever. The next night it gets recorded over. And so they always have that. And R&D came up to me in one of them and said, Adam, your diction's awful in this song. Just sharpen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
That absolutely happens. Make sure you're on the right harmony line, all that.
I think at the end of the day, like, I'm just excited to really kind of get into it.
Good. So you should be. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. And even in between work, the transferable skills that going to drama school will give you are endless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got a lovely quote here from Kaitlin.
It's that you can train a drama person to do anything. You can't teach what was said was you can't teach a computer person people skills, but you can teach a drama person computer skills. It's like that drama people have so much that they can transfer.
Yeah.
And
that's not necessarily applicable to many other jobs.
No, it's very true.
That's all right. Thank you for that, Kaitlin.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I know, actually. It's like a bit
often.
more experiences. Usually stop behind the camera or... Yeah, we've had episodes that I don't actually know where we are time-wise. Going orange again. Cool. Yeah. Well, I think that was a good wrap-up. If there's anything else that you wanted to talk about or to mention or any, like, last words as we bring this kind of to a close?
Absolutely not. I'm just thank you for having me on.
That's all right.
It's been lovely, and I'm glad this came from our session at Central
together.
together.
It's brilliant that's kind of this has grown from that. That's great.
And I'll see you at Bird next year.
Yes, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, they allow the freshers to be a bit more exciting. Which is, I love Bird, but that's the only one thing like freshers could have been a bit more.
Get on it, Bird. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Right here, self-defense would be brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for watching or listening, depending on what platform you're on. We are going to change the name, so there won't be many times left of me saying this has been the Movement Theories podcast. But I have been Josh. This is
Adam Filipe,
and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.